Hello, so welcome to another reading vlog. This week I'm going to be continuing my reading plans for the Orilium Magical Readathon. I realized in the last vlog I just talked about the Orilium Readathon at the beginning of the vlog and then just never mentioned it again, which maybe I'll do again because basically it's just guiding my reading, but it's a lot of books I wanted to read anyway. But I guess I'll leave my TBR down below if you want to know what I'm planning to read this month. But for this week, our main focus is going to be I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Harpman. So this is a book translated from French, and it's a sci-fi novel where there's a bunch of women. I guess it starts with these women like trapped underground or something, and they've never known men, they've never talked to anyone, and through the book I guess you get to learn what is happening. I'm a little bit scared actually to open this book because it's such a small book that makes me feel like it would be easy to get through this week, given it's already Tuesday because I'm late starting this vlog. But it's a short one, right? So we should be okay to get through this, but I'm a little bit scared the font is going to be tiny. So let's have a look. Somewhat small, but not like as bad as like some of the books I have from my mum, like old thriller books. The fonts are tiny, but this is okay. I think it'll be all right. Oh, also, actually, my library, I just moved to a new town, and my new library, all the books have these like little slips in the front. They're like, I don't know how old all of you are. Some of you I know are as old as me, and you'll remember how libraries used to be, is there would be a little pocket in the front of the book, and you would pull out the card and write your name and your library card number on it, and that would be what the library kept when you took the book, and then they would stamp the due date in the front of the book so you knew when to bring it back. But obviously libraries don't work like that anymore, at least none that I know. They're all digital now. But my library, all the books seem to have these little slips still in the front, and one of the books I had, this one I think, this one has a stamp and a little squiggle. Did I have another one? Oh, this one doesn't even have one. Oh, this one, Wisdom of Crowds, that I read last week, has like a couple of little scribbles that people have made on it, and it's kind of a different slip, this one actually. And what I think it might be is this thing where a lot of old people, because they can't easily keep track of what they've read, will do this thing where on a certain page number they'll always write their initials or something, so then when they pick up a book at the library they can have a look and be like, have I read this? Which is very flawed as soon as a book has multiple copies at the library. What am I reading? This one. But I think maybe they've just put this thing in the front so that the old people, because there's a fair amount of old people in this town, I guess so that they can just write their little scribble on there and not ruin the book, but also know whether they've read the book, even though, as I said, falls apart as soon as there's multiple copies of the book. But maybe since it's a smaller library, that doesn't happen as often. I don't know. I've only gone to my new library a handful of times. Anyway, as well as reading I Who Have Never Known Men, I'm going to really struggle with that title the whole way through this, aren't I? As well as reading that, I am going to be reading an audiobook, and I have already started it. So I'm reading One Fell Sweep by Ilona, which is the third book in the Innkeeper Chronicles. This is like a sci-fi fantasy where all the paranormal creatures of the world are actually aliens, and whenever they come to Earth, they're supposed to stay in these inns, and the innkeeper's jobs are basically to keep humans safe from aliens, and aliens secret from humans, and aliens safe from humans as well as each other. So it's a lot of responsibility, and we're following this woman named Dina who is struggling to get kind of a new inn going while also trying to track down the secret of what happened to her parents. We haven't had much yet about the parents, but I think we might in this third book because it has just been hinted at that there might be something to learn. So in this third book, the setup is that she's gotten a message from her sister asking for help, and then she has gone to find out what's happened to her sister. I have read far enough to find out what's happened to her sister, but I won't spoil it for you. This series is always just a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy Ilona writing style. It's just a lot of action and humor, which often I don't like, but the way Ilona writes it, I do, and just the way they do world building and character development, I always find it enjoyable. So this is just going to be a super fun read. I'm hoping to also get to my next audiobook, One Dark Window, this week, but as usual, I might be being delusional and just expecting too much of myself. And I kind of want to take things easy this week. I've been a bit sick. I'm still trying to sell my house. There's too many things going on. I think it's time to relax. So it is now a couple of days later because I really didn't do much reading. Like usually I read just before bed and I just kept falling asleep. So it took me a while to actually pick up I Who Have Never Known Men. However, now I'm like nearly halfway through it. And I will say, so normally I love books with short chapters because I feel like I'm getting that constant, like, I don't know, feeling of progress. Like, yay, you've done another chapter. And long chapters feel like a bit of a slog even when I'm enjoying what I'm reading. But this book doesn't really have chapters. There was like a bit of a break at around page 50, and I think I can see there's another one later in the book, but I think that's it. And so usually I would feel like I was struggling to get through this. And at first I kind of was feeling like that. I was like, where's my chapter confirmations that I'm reading and I'm doing good? But once I kind of got into it, because there weren't any like clear stopping points, I kind of read for a much longer time in one sitting than I normally would. And I think as well, it's not just that there's no chapter breaks, but there's no real like structure in some ways. Like there's never a clear ending point. Everything kind of just continues from one thing that's happening to another thing. In some ways, not much is happening, sort of. A lot of what we're getting is just this woman's thoughts. So what it is basically we've got this group of 40 women. They live in this prison room together, just a single room with like some toilets that there's no privacy when they use them. And at night they have mattresses, and every so often, is it a regular timing? They're not sure. These men will come and bring them food, but they have no real interactions with the men. And there's a bunch of rules, like they're not allowed to touch each other. And if they do, there's like the threat of violence, but that doesn't really seem to happen anymore. So it's a very weird situation, but also we're primarily getting the perspective of this younger girl who doesn't really understand why she's with all these women, and the women don't really remember why they're there either. Like they don't know why they're there. It does seem like their memories are a little bit off, but this young girl is just like too young when she was first put in this prison to even remember what life was like before they were put in there. And in some ways she's quite mad because she feels like the other women are keeping secrets from her. And I also, like, I don't know if I feel like she's a reliable narrator, because right at the beginning she did talk about like her ability to create stories and also like why she's writing this story. And a lot of it is just about her internal experience, because at least the first 50 pages are just in this room with these 40 women, and so it's all just her thoughts about nothing happening. Then something does happen, but it still doesn't answer a lot of questions. And I will say there's been a couple of lines that make me think we're not going to get any answers. And I did have a quick look at some reviews, and I think people who are giving it low reviews are often really mad that they didn't find out what happened. That's what I'm reading into from what they said. Most people are very good about not spoiling it. So I don't know if we're really going to get any answers, but it's more about this young woman's experience, and like that's the fact that she's like experiencing so many human things, but she doesn't really have the human context to understand a lot of things. It's very strange, but I am enjoying it. I'm just not sure whether I'm going to end up being satisfied with it in the end. But I am enjoying the strangeness and just some of the ideas in this. This is an idea book. And usually I'm a plot girl, but I can be seduced by ideas at times. So hopefully I'll keep enjoying this. As well, I did manage to do some reading. I read a couple of graphic things that are also on my readathon TBR. So firstly, I picked up Phoenix Endsong, which is like an X-Men comic, and I knew that it was very unlikely that I would enjoy it, but part of me was like, maybe I'll love it and I'll discover, you know, all these X-Men comics or like Marvel comics that I could be reading. However, it was terrible. I don't really understand how people read comics like that all the time. Like, the art was awful. The story was so badly presented. And part of that was because, like, it's clearly meant to be read after certain other stories. Even though online I didn't see anything saying, like, make sure you read this first. And it was fine because I've seen enough X-Men stuff or consumed enough X-Men stuff when I was younger that I know the context. But it was just so angsty and ugly. And I don't get it. I hated it. So anyway, I read that. Then as well, I picked up Gillig and the Vampire and Gillig and the Witch. And these ones were kind of cute, but also kind of creepy. Like the first one, Gillig and the Vampire, I couldn't get over from the very beginning that these like vegetable people are like growing and then selling vegetables. Like there's a tomato guy selling tomato sauce. Is that not terrifying to think about? Like, it's like me selling human sauce. What the fuck? But it's not presented like that at all. It's presented as like, oh, it's super cute. This witch grows vegetables and then she gets these vegetable helpers. But I just couldn't get over the creepiness of it. And it wasn't, like, it was cute, but not quite the kind of cute that I like. And the plot was very slow and cozy, which again is not really what I normally like. So anyway, then in the witch one, there was a whole nother creepy thing, which is kind of spoilers, but yeah, again, too creepy for me, but also not enough of a plot. So a bit disappointing, but somewhat cute. They had some good messages, but I'm probably not the target market, just like with the Marvel comic, to be honest. What I am the target market for, though, is One Fell Sweep. Where's my phone? That's my catchphrase, actually. Here it is. It's right in my pocket. I don't know why I always need to ask where it is when I have it right to hand. Anyway, I am, I guess, like 70% of the way through One Fell Sweep. I hate the way that Audible doesn't give you like a nice percentage like Libby does. Oh, and why am I listening to it on 1.95 speed? That's wrong. Anyway, I've only got a couple of hours left, so I've definitely finished that on my run tomorrow, but I'm having a great time with it, which I knew I would. I just love Ilona Andrews' writing, and the plot is always moving forward, and the character development is great, and there's a love triangle, but it's not really a love triangle. It's like there's a very clear slow burn romance going on, and we're kind of just getting traction on that, but also there is this other guy who is not really human and quite misled in his infatuation of the main character. And I kind of know that what direction that's going to go in, and I think that's exciting as well. Anyway, just every element of these books are a lot of fun. I still think it maybe doesn't go into too much depth, and even though the world building and the plot is cool and it is clever, like there's a lot to it and the way things come together. And I guess it is dealing with some important themes, but it does it in such a fun way. I feel like you don't even notice. Anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this series, and it's kind of the perfect book to read while you're going for a run because it doesn't require too much brain power, but it also keeps you like invested enough and engaged enough that you don't notice that you've just gone for an extra long run. Anyway, that's my reading update. There's not much else going on at the moment, which I'm happy about because I'm just trying to catch up on life and ignore the fact that I'm also trying to sell my house at the moment and not stress about that because there's nothing I can do about it. But I will probably check in with you again once I've finished One Fell Sweep. Hello. So on my run, I did finish reading One Fell Sweep, and I don't really know what to say about it. I think the ending was very intense and emotional, but also I want to say that I had a lot of fun with this book. Like, it's so weird with this series. I just have such a good time with it, and I feel so engaged the whole time, even though I can acknowledge to some degree there's a fair amount of info dumping, but I feel like it's always one character explaining something either to you, the reader, or to another character at a time when it would either make sense for them to be thinking about it or make sense for them to be explaining it to someone. So it doesn't feel like painful info dumping, but I can see that some people would see it that way. And I also just think, like, even though it really is dealing with some deeper topics, it's so lighthearted at the same time. Like, it has that sense of humor that never makes it feel like too overwhelming, and I feel like it gets the point across without like laboring the point. So the summary is like I really enjoyed that book, and I think the contrast with the next audiobook that I picked up makes it especially obvious how much I liked One Fell Swoop. So I've picked up One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This one I actually did try a chapter thing where I read the first chapter, and I thought it was really interesting. I did think maybe a little bit too much on the romantasy side and the YA side, and that I might struggle with it, which was a reasonable fear to be having because I'm really not that engaged with it, and I feel like it is partially because I've just come from One Fell Swoop that I was so engaged in. I just like enjoy those books so much, and the narrator of the audiobooks is amazing, but with One Dark Window it's kind of that generic fantasy again. And like our main character, like the setup is interesting, but now that I've gotten into it, I think I've listened to only like an hour of it, but the main character's main concern seems to be whether she should go to this like equinox party that's being held at the court of the king, and maybe this guy is going to be there that she used to like and he still likes her, and something. And I just honestly couldn't care less, which is frustrating because, as I said, the setup is interesting. So in this world, you can get this infection that will then lead to you having magic. Using magic is illegal though. So if you get the infection and like have this fever, then you'll be executed. So this main character, she gets the fever, but they hide her away and they think that she's managed to like escape the effects of it. But she hasn't. She now has this like dark voice in her head that talks to her. So definitely something strange is going to happen with that. Nothing much has happened yet. The other thing that is in this world is the only legal way to use magic is these 12 like playing cards that each have like a different power, and when you touch them then you can use that power. And it seems like her father and her uncle are somewhat involved in using those cards. And I know that there's going to be more to the story, but the first hour didn't get very far into it. But now that I've explained the premise again, maybe I'm more hopeful that it's going to get better. So I guess we'll see. I don't know if I'll read any more of it in this vlog though, because it might have to wait for next week's run. But we'll see, maybe. Maybe I won't end this vlog until Monday. So then the only other thing I've been reading is I Who Have Never Known Men. This where am I up to? Who knows, because it's all just one big thing. 114 pages out of 190. Let's say 2/3 of the way through. I will say, since I've kind of realized that there isn't going to be, like, I don't think there's going to be much of a conclusion to this book. And so then I took one night off because we were watching TV, and I just don't feel a lot of motivation to pick this up again, even though when I was reading it, I was enjoying it. And I do think like it's an interesting like thought experiment about what it would be like to live in this kind of situation. And there are some interesting ideas in here, but I also don't know if I understand why this is some people's favorite book, and I don't think that long term this is going to stick with me. To me, this is more the kind of book that you read in English class at school and talk about the themes. And I will admit to having liked a lot of the things that we read in English class. And I am liking this, but it's not a favorite. And because I had seen some people say it was their favorite, I thought maybe I would really love it. And it's still fine. Like, I'm having an okay time with it. I guess we'll see. Maybe the ending will do something that will change my thoughts on it. But I am going to try and maybe finish this afternoon because it is a horrible rainy day and tomorrow is Jace's birthday, so we'll be busy with that. So if I could finish this today, that would be nice.
Baby, I know what you're going through. I'll be waiting up for you all night. Don't think it's too much to ask for. I'm always gonna make sure you're alright.
Goodness, what is my fringe doing? My hair is kind of in running mode. Anyway, I thought I would finish off this vlog in here with the moas. Oh, and whatever other birds are around. So the moas used to be these giant birds that we had in New Zealand. Bigger than this, actually, some of them. I have a fear of birds, so I'm very glad that they do not hang around here anymore. Although, kind of sad for the moas. So there's a bunch of moas in here for some reason. I don't really know why. Anyway, for some reason there's also random sirens going on in the background. But I wanted to update you on my reading. So I did finish off reading I Who Have Never Known Men. And I want to take back what I said about it probably not sticking with me. I actually think it will stick with me. But mostly the last part. I think for me, as an extreme introvert, I don't want to spoil anything, but for me it was the last part that really had the biggest impact. And it really isn't a story about what it's about. It's more of a story, like I said before, I think a thought experiment about what it would be like to be experiencing being human without any of the context of human society. I don't know. It's definitely a book you could read for English class. Like, there's a lot you could think about and a lot you could probably pull out. That said, I don't think I have the emotional attachment to it. I wouldn't say it's a favorite book, but it's a pretty good one if you want something that's gonna leave you thinking about life and what the meaning of everything is. So that's that. Then as well, this cute little bird just landed right in front of me. Oh no, he's run off now. Let's give this moa some screen time. Anyway, I'm now about a third of the way through One Dark Window. It has got more interesting, thank goodness, although I still, I'm not sure. Is it that I'm not liking the audiobook narration, or is it that I'm not liking the writing style? Sometimes when you're listening to the audiobook, it's hard to tell which one it is that you're not liking. And I think I am just a little bit frustrated because sometimes it feels like it's supposed to be a reveal, but it's something that I thought was obvious. So I don't know. Maybe I've just read too many fantasy stories, so I know the normal setups and that's what's happening. I do still think the cards are really interesting and the powers that they give, and there is a bit of a mystery around this voice in her head and what people are planning to do with the cards. So hopefully that will get more and more interesting as we go along. But I'm probably going to finish that off now in my next reading vlog, so come hang out with me there if you would like. Otherwise, let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video, because I would love to chat with you about them down in the comments, or let me know if you've been reading anything interesting lately. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more of my bookish videos. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.